Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Lunch and Learn. We're excited to have all of you join us. My name is Dan Jasper. I am here with my colleague, Laura Utek from Mall of America. And we're excited that you joined us for this. We're going to be talking about our submission last year to the Classics Award. And we are going to go through a PowerPoint with you. I wanted to give you a few little highlights right here at the beginning during the introduction. I'm also a board member for Minnesota PRSA, so that's why I'm doing the introduction. We are recording today's session, so just so you know, we are recording. We're going to keep all of the attendees on mute, but if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat line, and we will answer those at the end. And also, the video from today's presentation will be available on the Minnesota PRSA website probably in about a week or so. I wanted to, again, thank you for your interest in learning more about how to put in an application, for the Classics, Minnesota PRSA Classics. It's really a cool event and a neat way to receive recognition for your work. The process is open right now, so you can go ahead and put in your projects right now, and the deadline for putting them in is Friday, February 7th. Something new this year, if you find that you have questions while you're putting in your nominations or you need help, there is an email address that's been set up. It is classics@minnesotaprsa.org. Again, classics@minnesotaprsa.org. There will be somebody there that will be able to help you as you work on your applications for awards. And with that, we're going to go ahead and start this presentation. Again, we're so happy you joined us. Thank you for that. And I'm going to have Laura start by introducing herself.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dan. If my screen will move over here. We tested this earlier, but my name is Laura Utek, and I'm the Communications Director here at Mall of America. I actually started my career in TV news, so I was a reporter before getting into the realm of public relations, went to school at St. Cloud State University, and then from there went to the NBC and CBS affiliate in Duluth, Minnesota. I was a general assignment reporter at that time, so I would shoot, write, edit stories on my own, and then from there I was promoted to the morning anchor position while I was spending my time in Duluth. From there, I moved down to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was with the Fox affiliate, and I was a morning feature reporter during that time. So I would produce my own segments, come up with the ideas myself. It was everything from playing basketball with the Harlem Globetrotters to rappelling down a 30-story building on live TV, which I did not realize I had a fear of heights until I was rappelling down a 30-story building on live TV. So that was very interesting. But I would also turn stories for the evening newscast and anchor the midday show as well. So after years of very, very early mornings and long hours, I was ready for a change and was ready to do something a little bit different. And so then I wanted to get into public relations. When moved back to the Twin Cities, I got a fantastic opportunity with Radisson Hotel Group Americas and was there for a number of years helping to lead their public relations program, worked with phenomenal people during my time there. And it was about 2.5 years ago that I began here at Mall of America as Director of Communications. And I get to work with amazing people like Dan right here. But in my specific role, I oversee public relations and social media. So what we're specifically focused on is getting coverage on our events. We have hundreds of events every single year, promoting our seasonal campaign. So that includes spring break, summer, fall fashion, back to school, holiday. Holiday is always a really big one. We also want to promote our tenants. If our tenants aren't successful, then we're not successful. So it's helping them out and working alongside with them, getting that positive coverage for social and on the PR side with media. And then, of course, there is the crisis and security side as well, which we're going to be talking a lot more about here today.
All right, and I'm going to introduce myself. Just got a note that you can advance the screen from your PowerPoint screen. So we're trying to figure out our PowerPoint here. My apologies. I think we got it here. And Dan Jasper, I'm Senior Vice President at Mall of America. I've actually been at the mall for 20 years, which seems kind of impossible, to be honest. Been involved with Minnesota PRSA. This is my third year on the board. I love the organization. Here at the mall, and before coming to Mall of America, I had 25 years of experience doing public relations, marketing, and fundraising in the nonprofit sectors. So I've been around a long time. I started 20 years ago at the mall as the public relations director, created a social media team and helped to grow that, grew a community relations team, a tourism team, and managed a few other teams along the way as well. And through that time, handled a lot of issues at Mall of America, not least of which is one or two crises along the way. So it's something that I've been very involved with and understand a lot. And that's why when we considered applying for this award last year, it made a lot of sense for us. So I'd like to share right now kind of why we chose to work on an application and submitted it for the Classics Awards. I'll tell you why we didn't do it, and I'll start there. We didn't do it because we wanted a really cool looking award sitting on a glass shelf in the entryway to the mall's offices, right? That really wasn't the motivating force. It's awesome that we have a really cool award for winning the Best in Show last year, but honestly, it's sitting in our office rather than out front. And but there were some real motivating forces behind why we put together the effort and the time to do this, because it does take a lot of time and thought. One, we submitted for awards because it was a way to recognize the hard work of the many departments that come together to accomplish a common goal. In this case, it was we were facing a crisis, which we'll talk about in a little bit later in the presentation. But it takes a whole host of team members and people with different specialties to help you overcome any obstacle and to reach your goal. And by submitting for awards, whether we win or not, it's an opportunity to recognize the work of the many departments and individuals that came together to do that. It also allowed us to reflect on how we worked through that process, in this case, a crisis-related process. And while we did that, we came up with ideas that will help us be even stronger as an organization in the future. So that retrospective part of this and the self-analyzing part of this helps us grow as individuals and as teams, as communicators, and we'll be better in the future because of it. We submitted for awards because it helps build culture and team pride. I will tell you that through this process, it brought some of our internal teams much closer together, and Laura will share some information on that in the future. And finally, it provides a platform to share key learnings, like we are today on this seminar, but also with other groups, and we have shared this information with other people along the way, along this journey. So yeah, it's wonderful to be recognized for efforts, but I think the tangible benefits for applying for Classics Awards go so far beyond that. It helps us all become better, stronger professional communicators, and that's why we take the time and effort to do this. We wanted to start off with how we submitted our award and the motivating factors behind it. And it was really going from crisis to an area of growth. We focused on a year at Mall of America that had a lot of really challenging instances, several of which were gun-related. And the company and public perception, there was a real crisis mode we were in. And we wanted to figure out how we go from that those areas of crisis into an area of growth, opportunity, and security, and reassure not only the public that Mall of America is safe, but our team members, our tenants, everybody who's close to us. The year kind of started off with a man who was carrying a rifle through Mall of America, which sounds incredible that someone would actually do this, but he did. And he walked a distance through the mall. What's really challenging for us and what was really interesting to see in terms of our society, this gentleman walked a significant distance through the mall, and guests walked right by him, and the vast majority did not even notice he had this out, because we all live in our little worlds, right? Mm-hmm. And so he went into a store here at the Mall of America. The minute he entered the building, our security was aware he was here. They were moving into action, getting into place to handle the situation. We have an amazing security department. As the man exited the store he was in, and that's the photo you have on the left side of the screen right now, one of our security leaders, who is a veteran, tackled the gentleman, disarmed him, and then other security officers and Bloomington Police joined in as well. Nobody was hurt in that instance, but it was scary, and it made the news, and it made our guests feel unsafe and weary about coming out here. And then that was followed later in the year by a shooting at Mall of America, the first shooting we'd had in years and years and years. Somebody fired 3 shots inside of a store here at the mall. There was one minor injury from gunshot and one minor injury from a guest who fell. No one was significantly hurt. But again, playing off of that first crisis, and then you add this crisis, that fear within the general public, within our team and our tenants, continued to grow. And then that culminated with a crisis that really threw us into crisis mode, and we had to make significant changes, and Laura's going to share about that.
Yeah, so it was that final incident where that 19-year-old was killed here at the mall, that I was only with the mall for about 2.5, 3 months at that point in time. And it was challenging. And in these particular situations, it's not only challenging with the communication strategy piece, but it's also challenging for the team. And that's why it's really important in these circumstances to be there for your team and support one another, because everybody's having a tough time, because they're realizing that something like this happened in their place of work, and that's scary for them as well. But when these particular incidents occur, what we do is we get a group of us together in our Emergency Operations Center. So that's our operations team, IT, tenant relations, HR, of course, our communications team, and security. From a PR side, we're monitoring the coverage, we're responding to media inquiries, we're working very closely with Bloomington Police Department. We have a great relationship with them, and we want to be very aligned on our messaging, and especially if there's an active investigation taking place. We don't want to be giving out information that could harm their investigation at that point in time, so we have to be really careful of that. But taking a look at the slide, you can see that 2022 was a really hard year for us at Mall of America. There was a lot that happened, and just sending out a couple statements after these incidents wasn't going to do it for us anymore. We knew we had to do something bigger. We knew that we had to take action. And at the end of the day, we knew that we had an industry-leading security team and resources in place, but we weren't telling that story. So we knew it, and we knew what was going on, but nobody else knew what was going on. So then that's when we realized we needed to create this security communication strategy, because with this gun violence that we were seeing, it wasn't a Mall of America issue. This is a societal issue that we're seeing, but Mall of America is being significantly impacted by it. So we knew that we needed to do something, and we knew that we needed to act quickly on it. So that shooting death occurred at the very end of December of 2022. We were executing this communication strategy by early to mid-March of 2023. So what we're going to walk through with you today was all completed in about a 2 to 2.5 month time span, because we had to act fast, and we knew that. So what we did was we took a 3-tiered approach. So we wanted to educate. That was the most important piece that we just talked about, right? We knew what we were doing, but nobody else did. So informing tenants, team members, guests, media about our security strategy. The next was to enhance. So that's continue to evolve and enhance our security efforts, but also continuing to tell that story. We didn't just want to do a one and done and then say, okay, we did what we needed to do, we can be done with that. We wanted to continue telling that security story. And then there's impact, which Dan will chat about.
Yeah, and we looked at the impact, which is really the future-facing part of our strategy, which is how can we work with elected officials, other organizations, other businesses to make meaningful impact to address the issues that we faced. Now, I'll tell you, before we go into detail on any of this, as we applied for the Classics Award in this category, we really looked at everything, the root cause of the issue that we were facing. We did research. How was it impacting our business? How was it impacting our tenants, our team members? We looked at strategies behind and tactics. How can we improve this effort? And that's part of this three-tiered approach came from that. We looked at budget, we looked at resources. All of those elements go into the Classics Award, but they were also all part of our real-life process of working through this significant challenge. And the impact part of it was we knew we had to have stronger relationships with elected and other officials so that moving forward, we could do a better job of keeping everyone safe at Mall of America.
So starting out with educate, the first step in this process was updating our website. So if you take a look at the left-hand side of your screen, you can see our old website that we were previously using. So just had a logo and was just a big body of information. Wasn't really organized in any kind of way, no storytelling, didn't really resonate with people, challenging to find the information that you were looking for. It was just kind of a bunch of information just right there. So what we did, if you look at the right-hand side of your screen, you can see how we updated it, and we made some very significant changes. We updated all of the photography. We took beautiful photos of our own security officers in action. We organized the content into different categories, so training, specialized units, programs and practices. We created those different categories to make it easier for people to navigate. And then on top of that, we produced a series of videos. So each of those three categories that I mentioned have their own video that goes with them. And then at the home page of the website, there's a video by our Vice President of Security, Will Burnjum. And in this video, he's giving an overview of our security program, but he's also sharing a little bit of his personal story. He's sharing that his dad used to be a police officer and he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps. He talks about his military background and he shares a little bit more about himself. So there's really that personalization, humanizing, storytelling that all went into updating this website to help it resonate with people and not just tell them what we're doing, but share the stories and more information about the people behind it and the impact that they're making.
I'd like to point out that if you look at the image on the left, our previous security website, it is non-engaging, it's boring, and I probably wrote that copy.
I was going to say, are you the one that created this?
Probably 15 years ago, I probably did that, and it shows that all of us, in our industry, need to be aware and go back and look at things and go, are we updated? Mm-hmm. But what we did when we applied for the Classics Award was we also were really clear on this is what happened before, and these are the changes. So using information, using images to share that story of how we've gone through this process was really key to applying for this as well. So images are really good at telling your story. So I'd encourage you, if you're applying for Classics, to use images. And as Laura said, the new website uses photos, uses video, uses real human storytelling. That was part of our strategy behind this, and it was also outlined in our awards application. So really helping the judges understand why we took these specific steps. And although we did most of the work internally using team members, there was some budget involved, a very minimal amount. But it was important for us to show, here's where we were with images and the objectives behind it, and here's where we moved to.
So we got the website done. Then the next step was we need to start communicating out this message. So we always want to communicate internally first to our own people and then start communicating externally. So we created an internal communication that we sent out to all of our team members and tenants, letting them know about the updates to the website. And then additionally, we provided our team members with a one-page document with additional information about our security strategy. What we were finding was a lot of our team members and tenants were finding themselves in situations where people, whether they were guests here at the mall, asking them questions about our security, or maybe they were in a social setting and people were starting to talk about, hey, I heard about this incident at the mall, what happened, or what are you guys doing about that? They were in these situations And maybe they didn't have the full background information about our security and what we're doing. So these were great resources for all of those people to help them communicate the message out to their communities too when they're in these situations as well, and how to handle maybe some of these challenging questions. And with the website too, it's really nice that even if you don't know the answer to the question, just to say, oh, here's the link to our webpage, why don't you check it out? It's got all kinds of great information and you'll be able to find all the answers to your questions here. So even if they can't answer a specific question, just guiding them to the website to be able to get some answers there.
And I'm going to go back, if we can go back one slide again, I want to share something if I can really quickly. These were all strategies we had on how we can address the issue of discomfort, of not being comfortable coming to Mall of America in light of these crises. And we talked about giving people the tools that they can use to direct guests who might be concerned or partners who might be concerned to our website or other resources. We also gave talking points to our key team members who deal a lot with the public, our guest service desk members, right? Our frontline people that work with guests, our security dispatch, our phone operators. But we got this information, including very simple responses team members can use when a guest or a family member approaches them. We got them to all of our team members. Do you know who gets the most questions at Mall of America? The janitorial staff. They're walking on the floors, they have their cart with them, and a guest will come up and say, I'm really worried about this. What happened with that shooting or something? And we often overlook those frontline people who have the most direct interaction with our guests. So we were very aware of meeting with those groups, of giving them resources, of guiding them through the process of here's how you navigate that conversation so that they felt comfortable, so that they could talk to our guests, because honestly, they are the true front line, because anyone who has any sort of a worry, they either talk to our janitorial staff, housekeeping staff that are online, our landscaping staff that is out on the front lines, or our security team that are out on the front lines. So we had to be sure to work with all of those teams to move this process forward, and we outlined that in our awards application as well.
All right, so now we've updated our website, we've communicated it internally, so now it's time to start communicating externally. So we wanted to get the word out to our media friends on what we were doing. So a big part of this, even going back to those videos that we produced for the website, was building a relationship with the security team. Now again, remember at this point in time, I've only been with the mall for 2-3 months. So this new person walks in, and luckily, you know, I had Dan with me here who's got some tenure too, who has more of that relationship, but I was still building that relationship with the security team and security leadership at that time. And the security team, they were the ones out on the front lines during all these crisis situations. So they're dealing with the trauma of being on the front lines during these crisis situations, seeing all of the negative news headlines that are directly attacking our security and what they do. Of course, they're going to be hesitant to do anything like this. And they were really hesitant. They didn't want to talk to the media or do anything like this or do videos for the website. But building that relationship and building that trust with them and helping to educate them as well that, you know, by building these relationships with the media, having the transparency with them as well and bringing them in and telling our story, they're much more likely to cover a positive story on us because they have all the pieces to the puzzle. If we're not commenting and leaving our piece of the puzzle out, they just got to try to fill the holes the best they can because they're still going to cover the story no matter what. So that was a big part of it, and I think through this, one of the huge benefits through this whole security strategy was the relationships that we built along the way and the trust that we built along the way as well. So that was a big piece of it. Additionally, we did bring in an expert while we were preparing for all of this to help us with the storytelling components of what we were about to do. And then we started thinking through, how do we want to tell this story to the media? We could just do a press conference and just stand there and spew out information. But again, we were thinking, just like back to the website, that doesn't resonate with people. That doesn't tell the story. That's not exciting or intriguing or interesting. So instead, what we decided to do was a behind-the-scenes tour. So what we did was we had Will lead the tour. Our vice president, Will Burnjelm, our vice president of security, was the tour guide. And we had all of the media come, and we started out in the North Atrium. And Will gave a little bit of an overview of our security program and about himself and a little bit about his story. But he talked about how security starts at Mall of America before you even come through the door. We have our license plate readers. We have our bike patrol officers outside. So security starts before you even come in. From there, we went to the North Garden. He talked about the patrol officers. Then we went to the Rotunda. He talked about surveillance cameras, undercover officers, our canine unit. Then we went to the training room down in our sub-level, and he talked about the extensive training and how that was a passion for him because of his military background and being deployed, and how critical it is to be trained, especially here at the mall, because you never know what these security officers could run into, so they need to know what to do. We also brought them into our dispatch center. We've never brought media into our dispatch center before, so that was something really different and new that we did, and an experience that we provided for our media that was truly unique. And along the way, Will was sharing compelling stories and sharing kind of what some of those different instances are that the security team has experienced. But in order to do this, we also had to be extremely prepared. We didn't want to shy away from any of the tough questions. We were ready for anything that could be thrown our way during this behind-the-scenes tour. One big question that we were always getting is, well, why don't you guys use metal detectors? You should be using metal detectors. Well, at the end of the day, Mall of America was built in the 90s. We have 27 entrances. We're open 363 days a year, 11 hours a day. We weren't built for metal detectors. We have people with shopping bags, purses, strollers, backpacks, laptops. It's just not feasible to be able to do, but we put other resources in place that would work as well. But being able to really explain the why behind that, I think the media really appreciated it.
You know, as we looked at doing these media tours, and we also did similar tours, by the way, with key partners of ours, like some hotel partners, some key tenants. We also did a similar tours with city officials and some other people interested in security. But as we submitted the did our submission for awards on this, this is another key area where we had metrics, right? So you have to have measurements, you have to have goals, and how do you know if you're going to achieve those goals? So we had goals for what kind of media coverage we would get. We were measuring sentiment on social media. Mm-hmm. We used all of that analysis and all of that data in our award submission as well to show that here was the baseline, here's where we were at. We were hoping to go to X. We actually went to X plus whatever it was. But we measured everything as an opportunity to go, are we moving the needle? Are we helping people feel safer? Are we getting the stories out that we need to have out there? We talk about this media tour, and we did more than one of them, kind of not as a press conference. I like to think of them as roving press conferences, because we moved throughout the mall. Our Vice President, Will Burnjelm, shared a lot of his stories and a lot of the enhancements throughout the tour. But we encouraged every media member present to ask difficult questions along the way. So it was a very interactive experience, and they asked some really tough questions, to be quite honest. And I think they really appreciated the community and the way that we handled it. As a matter of fact, I know they did, because almost to a person they told us how appreciative they were and how open we were about our process. We also explained that in our award submissions. It's important to include those nuances as well when you can, so that people that are looking at awards understand not only what your strict goals are, but how it's going to enhance the process as well.
And we did fun things along the way, like we had one of our undercover security officers walk by our tour group, and later in the tour, Will was saying, You know, throughout this tour, we had one of our undercover officers walk by. Did any of you guys notice him, or did you see him? And just kind of little interactive elements, and having the dogs out. People always love the canines, and sharing that story, and having our canine lieutenant come and speak and do some demos with the dogs. So just really interactive and engaging with the media. And as a result, you can see the positive headlines. I think our security team, our leadership, our ownership was thrilled with the response that we got, because of course it's a little nerve-wracking because you don't know where the media could take this, but we were very grateful that they were all very positive headlines, and we felt confident that that's how it was going to turn out, because we have a great story to tell, and we're doing industry-leading things here with our security team. So that was great. And as Dan mentioned as well, we ended up doing a second tour. So some of the media that, due to scheduling conflicts, couldn't make the first tour, reached out after seeing some of these stories saying, hey, is there any way I can come and do this another time? So we ended up scheduling a second round of the tours and brought in a whole another round of reporters and did it all over again. There we go. So then it's enhanced, continuing to tell our story. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this, we didn't just want it to be the one and done and just kind of take a vacation after this, which maybe some of us took some vacations, but we wanted to continue to tell that story. And we realized they don't always have to be these intense, serious stories. They can also be a little bit fun as well. So we actually did, one of the other follow-up stories that we did was a canine naming contest. So we got a new 8-week-old puppy. All of our canines are trained on site here. And we didn't have a name for the puppy. So we thought, hey, what if we let the public name the puppy? So we ran a naming contest, and we got tons of great coverage from the media promoting it, where people could submit names. And then after the name was announced, Dash was the name. We got a lot of positive coverage on that. We had 6,000 name suggestions and 300,000 social media impressions from that. So very positive headlines, and people just loved it. So it was fun to do that story. The next follow-up story that we did was on firearm detection canines. So I mentioned earlier in this presentation that metal detectors weren't the right fit for this building. So we had to come up with another creative solution, and that was firearm detecting canines. So they're dual purpose in both explosive detection and firearm detection. So once again, we brought the media in, and we had Will, our VP of Security, and then Kenny McDonough, who is our canine lieutenant and leads all of the training of the canines, do interviews with the media, and then we also did some really interactive demonstrations with the dogs, showing how that is done as well. So again, really good headlines, positive headlines from that. So people are continually seeing what Mall of America is doing to enhance its security. So those are the headlines and not the negative things. And then also facial recognition. So last year, it was about late spring last year, we launched facial recognition. And we did something really industry leading with this, because facial recognition, just at face value, can be a very controversial subject. Maybe if it can be used in a lot of variety of ways. But as a communications team, you know, we all talked about it, and understanding how we're using it, and that we're using it in a very positive way, we felt like we should communicate this message out to people so they understand that now we have another layer of security in place, and helping to explain how we're using it to ease people's minds and make them feel a little bit more comfortable with it. So just as a background, how we are using facial recognition is we have what we call POIs. They're persons of interest. And we have those photos of those individuals that are uploaded into the system. Those are individuals who have been trespassed from the mall, people who are missing or are in danger, people who are a known threat to the mall, or people that police identify to us as dangerous. So we have those photos uploaded into the system, and there's criteria around those photos. And then we're only looking for those specific people. So anybody else coming through the doors, if you're not one of those people, we don't know who you are. We just know you're not one of those people. So the way we like to describe it or explain it is, if I were to take Dan's cell phone, we all have facial recognition on our phones. if I took Dan's phone and I held it up to my face, the phone, it just wouldn't open. It wouldn't know who I am or anything about my identity. It would just know I'm not Dan, so it's not going to open. So that's how we like to explain how the facial recognition process works. And also, this is just another tool. It's not the end-all, be-all. We have a series of protocols in place as well that we follow if we get an alert through facial recognition. So it's not just taking that as its word. We do a lot of further investigation before anything happens following that. So that was industry leading, got really good headlines and positive news coverage of that, because not many companies do that and talk about a topic that people could find controversial. And then lastly is speaking engagements. Will Bernjalm, our Vice President of Security, has become very active with speaking engagements, doing keynotes at industry conferences. He spoke with a lot of local organizations and city leaders as well. But then also he was named one of the Twin Cities Business 100 for 2025 to drive change in the year ahead. Really a well-deserved recognition and showing that him and his team are really making a difference to keep people safe. And then also speaking engagements like today, and having the opportunity to speak with all of you and share not only what our security communication strategy was, but also what we're doing to keep people safe here at Mall of America.
And when we submitted the application for the Classics, talking about the storytelling aspect of it, one of the goals we had through the process that we outlined in our awards submission was that we wanted to figure out, one of our goals was that security doesn't have to be scary. Mm-hmm. It can be informing, it can be comforting, it can be reassuring, it can even be fun. And so we put that in the application as well, because that was one of our goals, is in the past we had a tendency, whenever we spoke about security, it was a scary topic, and we were very serious. And in truth, it's a very serious topic, but one of our goals was, how do we make this more relatable and more reassuring to the general public? And we outlined that in our submissions award as well. And it really worked for us. Some of the speaking engagements were to groups you may not even suspect. I mean, obviously we talked to other security personnel, we talked to city leaders, we've talked to chambers and Rotary clubs and mall walkers, right? So people who might not want to hear the very serious side of security, they want to understand the human side and the reassuring side. So we outlined that strategy in our awards submission as well. And it is one that we were able to measure, and we exceeded our expectations there as well.
So with that, just wrapping things up.
Yeah, and as we started this presentation, and if anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But we started with the three main goals and objectives for this program. And these are the three main goals that we put into our Classics submission, along with the research, along with the metrics, along with the budgets that we had, all of the supporting documentation. But our goals were to educate people on how we keep our guests, our tenants, our team members safe at Mall of America. And throughout our submission and throughout this entire program, we were able to see that we exceeded all of those goals along the way. It was to outline and to enhance our security program. Laura talked a little bit about that, and that included what are the next steps for our security. That included our new puppies that we're bringing on board. It included our canines being certified in gunshot detection. It included facial recognition. So there are a number of ways we continue to enhance. And finally, it was the impact. And part of the impact was how do we tell the story? How do we share the story? And how do we get other people to share the story? That helps shape and inform our city leaders, our elected leaders, our civic partners as well. So we used all of those three bullet points, goals and objectives, to create this program, to be successful in the crisis program, but then also to inform how we submitted our award for Classics as well. So no, we're going to, we have a couple of questions in here right now, so I'm going to read those out loud and then we'll address them. The first one was We won Best in Show, but which category did we enter? And Laura, do you remember the actual category?
I think it was the Reputation Brand Management category.
It was the Reputation Brand Management, which we felt the crisis story really fit well into, because that's exactly what we were doing, was we had a brand that was having a reputation crisis, and we had to figure out, not only from a communication standpoint, but from an operational standpoint, and from an administrative standpoint, how do we handle that? So that's the category that we entered in. I see another question that's here, which is, crisis was handled impressively, especially being a sensitive matter. I'd like to know what the most challenging part of handling the crisis was, and if there's something you could change or add to how the crisis was handled, what would that be? I'll let you start, Laura, then I have a couple of answers.
Let's see. So starting out with the first part of it, most challenging part, you know, I would say, first and foremost, when the crisis first occurred, the impact on the team, I think, was really hard because, you know, this is our second home. You know, people love the mall. Everybody that works here loves the mall and looks at this as our home. So I think working with the team and making them feel good, that was something that was hard to just see people hurting. You just always hate that part of it, and that's hard. But I think getting through that just makes us even stronger, and what we've accomplished just makes us even stronger. And I think also working with security and getting them to feel comfortable, because I know they had been through so much. So it, you know, that was, I think, just a lot. Everybody was just worn thin, I think, and you know, having a hard time with all that. And then what was the second part of the question again?
And it was, if there's something you could change or add to how you handled it, what would that be?
Ooh.
I have a couple of ideas, right? So kind of playing off what Laura said, you know, we had three fairly major crises back to back, or fairly close together, right? And they all kind of laddered up to each other, to the significant one where somebody lost their life. And that is really stressful on everybody involved, including our guests, including our tenants, and our team members as well. A couple of things I think that we can do a little bit better job of handling, and we've taken steps since this time. Actually, through the three different crises, we've done some different things in place. After the very first one, we have an alert system that tells all of our team members, all of our tenants, when we're in crisis mode, when they were in a lockdown, what to do. We learned from that very first one that we weren't doing a good job with follow-up. So we put in place a system that we could do a better job of following up. But we also learned that we need to do an even better job, following this third one, of sharing more information sooner with our key audiences. We're all stuck in this crisis mode, and sometimes, you know, we're going 100 miles an hour, and it's important to remember that the people closest to the crises, they need information as quickly as you can get it to them, as long as you have accurate information as well. And then remembering that human side. One of our team members was locked down in tenant spaces for 2, if not all 3 of these crises. I'm trying to remember. And our team is trained that even if we're locked in a tenant space, that we're on our phones and we're working together to handle our crisis plan, right? So the other thing that we learned from these crises is how critical it is to have an open line of communications with the security team and other leaders in the management realm, which we do, but how important it is to have ongoing tabletop training and other training within the comms team, PR, social media, digital, as well as the overall team. And we've always been pretty good at that, but I think we've gotten even better through the time. Mm-hmm. And I see another question up here. Thank you for sharing. Great presentation. I need to go. Oh, sorry. It wasn't a question. It was just looking forward to hearing the rest in the recording. Does anyone have any final questions for us? And actually, before you type them in, feel free to type them in. I would say, I would highly encourage all of you, and if you know others involved in PRSA or that would like to become involved in PRSA, to submit for the classics. Just going through the process of submitting, it takes some time, takes some effort, it just makes you really think in detail about what you've accomplished, and it's amazing what we've all accomplished. So I would highly encourage you to submit for awards through the Classics, and then join us for the Classics night celebration. It is really a fun way to connect with other professionals in Minnesota and beyond Minnesota, quite honestly. And it's a great way to just build better relationships. So again, you can go to minnesotaprsa.org, or if you're working on a submission and you have questions, you can get help at the email address of classics@minnesotaprsa.org.
It was fun working on those submissions together, because it's, like Stan said, it is a lot of work. However, it is fun to look back and think, wow, we accomplished a lot last year, and thinking it through it. So.
And by the way, we're already working on ours for this year, so I would encourage all of you to do the same. If anyone else has another question, feel free to type it in now. And if we don't, the really good news is that everybody's going to get 12 minutes back to their day.
Ooh.
So enjoy a little bit of a lunch break. Don't tell anyone the meeting ended early. This meeting has been recorded. You'll be able to view it on the website. And again, we appreciate you joining us so much. And please apply for Classics Awards. It's a great experience. You won't regret it. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.